Alright. Are you recording? Good. So I'm kind of switching to a half-ass planishing stage. I'm gonna work this edge a little bit more. I'm just gonna try to take some of the big bumps out of it, and then I'm gonna revisit this. I think I kind of jumped the gun a little bit on this, beating on it with the slapper. It's still stretched a little. That size 9. This piece is pretty flat, and that's really difficult for me. It always has been. So I got to think about it. So having that oil can back in is not a really big deal for me. This has got a nice crown to it. What I'd like to do now is to get all these little nipples out of here, which I created when I was beating on it. Many different incarnations of me beating on this thing. I would just like to straighten it out a little bit. Now, one of the things I want to really show here, and it's kind of very important, oh, Black Biddy, is I switched hammers. This is my roughing hammer, and I usually do try to keep this as clean as possible. I've actually I've had it in the house using it for some stuff, and kind of got a little shitty. This is my good hammer. This is my finishing hammer. This is a 1000 grit polish on the end here. Yeah. Okay, so that's a mirror finish. I can see my ugly mug in it, and that's what the face of your hammer should look like. Also, the edge is broke, so it's got not only has it got a chamfer on the edge, it's the edge of the hammer itself has been polished away. So the crown of this hammer. I have another one I'm going to show you too. The crown of this hammer is actually pretty flat right in here. I don't want to mark it up. I should use a magic marker on it to show, but I guess any tool can be the right tool. So the way this hammer is set up is there's a dead, or is a very low crown, maybe half a degree crown. Okay, and it's pretty. It's pretty flat right in here. If I was to put a straight edge on it, it would show all the flaws. Actually, if I was to put a straight edge on it, what it would show is that this is flat right to here. Okay, and then it rolls a little bit, and then this edge is broke. Now there's a reason for that, and that's because you don't want to catch when you're doing a planishing operation. You don't want to catch the edge of the hammer on the material, or worse, have the dolly up in there, contact it, and then catch the edge, and that'll put a dimple in it. It'll put a little smiley face, and there's nothing happy about one of those. I wish I should probably set up a camera so I can actually show this a little bit better. My point of contact at any given moment is probably less than a 1/16 of an inch circle. So this has got a crown, and this has got a crown, and all I'm doing is just the tiniest little bit of contact surface. And I'm rolling this dolly as I'm working it, as I'm tapping it with the hammer. I'm rolling the dolly to increase the contact surface, but the contact surface itself is about a 1/16 of an inch diameter. And it grows as you do it because you're 1/16 of an inch at a time. The contact patch is even smaller on this side, which is what I'm going to use in here. It's really important too that I mention that I am just tapping this. It's a lot easier to move a lot of metal in little bits than it is to move a lot of metal at one time. If you try to move too much metal at one time, you're just fucking yourself. I've got probably 20 hammers and like 4 sledgehammers. I only use the sledgehammers when I absolutely just want to destroy something. So yeah, there's actually, you can see in here, there's a couple sad, well, smiley faces that are actually sad. Boo. want to give my hand a break here for a second because I'm getting my forearm starting to cramp up a little bit from doing that. I'm out of practice. So while I have your undivided attention, because I know you're just dying to look at this. There it is. So I'm just going to give a real quick explanation of what I'm trying to explain what I'm doing, and it's really difficult because you're not standing here right next to me, and I can't really explain it all that great. So the anatomy of a dent is it's pretty interesting, actually, the way dents work and the way a hammer and dolly works. I'm sure there's guys online or on YouTube that have given really good explanations, but I taught a lot of kids over the years. Actually, I taught a few adults that didn't know any better. Guys that had been doing it for 40 years and didn't understand what was going on, and they would just like beat on it. Just a Chinese hooker or a monkey in a American Tourister commercial. So I'm going to wash this off too, because I'm going to use this as my my explanation here. So the way a dent works, you want to get a cigarette too. I got some new gloves. Apparently they don't like lacquer thinner. Damn it, I really like these too. These are Wonder Grips. Nah, excuse to go back to Fazio's. So, the anatomy of a dent is pretty, it's actually strikingly complex. And it's, it kind of goes like this. So, we'll say, this is your material. It's close enough. No, it's not close enough. Fucker. Let's try this again. I'm working upside down. I usually do this on the side of the car. So it goes like this, goes like that, goes like that, goes like that, goes like that, and then goes like that. So obviously each dent's a little bit different, but the basic anatomy of every dent is it's like it's like that picture, I forget the photographer's name, but you see it all the time nowadays. It's like a droplet of water, okay? So what happens is, this is the strike, this is the impact of the dent. Now, depending on how malleable the metal is, a lot of new cars in particular have pretty soft metal. So this is not as severe. Okay, this is where it raises up. So what happens is, when you get a dent, and then you have to also look at it, it's like a circle, okay? So this is the surrounding metal. This is the raised part, and this is the dent, okay? And then this can vary in how subtle it is. The sharper the crease, the sharper the dent, the more extreme this will be. So when it goes down, it comes up on the edges. What I'm doing right now with the hammer and dolly is, so I've got these little dents, okay, and the little smiley faces from where I was beating on it like an idiot. So what I'm doing right now is, I'm taking the dolly and I'm working the dent. I guess it's showing up. If not, I'll do another one. So I'm using the crown of the dolly and the hammer here up against the dent. So now I don't have the dolly directly under the dent itself. Okay, where I have the dolly is, I have the dolly on either side, and then you have to look at it like this too. So when I'm working the dolly, I'm working this area. Okay, I'm working this area. And as I work this area down with the hammer here, tappy, 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 in a circular motion around this. And then this, because I have the dolly right on the edge of this, right in here, this will start to, this will start to go down, okay, and then this will start to raise up. Now as I get closer to finishing the dent, I'll strike it less and less and less until I'm satisfied that I've raised it. Now you can do paintless dent repair if the dent doesn't have this. And a good PDR guy will look at a dent right away and say, yeah, I could take that out. And actually, a really good PDR guys, they'll get up underneath of this and with their pick, and then they'll take a really polished hammer. I've even been known to put tape on these. Actually, I usually do put tape on them, especially if I'm working on a finish. This is stainless, so I want it polished. And you put pressure underneath the here, and then you'll tap this down. And what that does is it stabilizes this hunk of the dent. Now I've got 1,000 little tiny dents in this, and I'm going to put 1,001 more tiny little dents in this until I've made this, until I'm satisfied that this is no longer looks like hell. It looks like hell now, and it's going to look like hell when it's finished, but it's not smashed. The whole point of this actual entire thing was just so I could get the lid to open and close. The back of this grill is smashed even worse, which is, I showed in the video, it's smashed even worse. And this is really just to get this thing to not look as bad and to function. This is more of a functionality than anything else. The real pain in the ass piece to straighten is going to be the inner piece, because it's perfectly flat. And getting the inner insulating, or the inner heat shield back in is going to be a trick, I think. And before I do that, actually, I'm going to probably hit all this shit with oven cleaner and try to get it as clean as possible, because I've now got to bug up my ass to TIG weld it back together. Shockingly, I haven't really cracked it anywhere. I was really expecting a crack. Now, I'll get back at it. You'll also see me moving my head around a lot. I kind of screwed myself by putting this here, because this has got windows. There's windows behind you, or behind the camera, and there isn't a really good straight edge. The light that comes in from there isn't directional at all. What I need to be, where I need to be, is actually over here where these long tubes are. But like I said, it's kind of like an act of futility. It's more therapy for me. The other option is I got to go in the house and clean the bathroom because we have people over this weekend. I'd much rather beat on this than scrub my shit stains out of the toilet. You'll also notice that I'm kind of using glancing blows. The slapper actually might work a little better for this. The soft or the hard slapper with the wider face. Like I said, this is a planishing. I've gone to a planishing operation prematurely, I might add. If I had any real ambition with this project, I'd probably get my English wheel out. and that that takes a lot of this shit out of here. But that would require me digging it out from underneath the table and setting it up, and then my throat's not quite long enough, I don't think, to catch. But I could do it in one direction only, and the best way to do it is to be able to spin it around, so I could, whatever. Fuck it, I'm just gonna beat on it. So I got 12 minutes left. I think I don't have to talk for 12 minutes about this. So this is my my heavy finishing hammer, and we talked about I talked about the polished finish on it. This is a planishing hammer. This hammer is actually considerably lighter, and it's got a wider strike face on it. This one's also polished, highly polished. I got a little shitty in the drawer, so I just whacked it with some 1000. So that's a 1000 grit polish, but normally this would have a 3000 grit polish on it. So that's just it, and I'm just whacking away at this thing. I think I'm pretty much given up. At this point, like I said, I'm just trying to avoid having to scrub the shitter. I'm gonna give it probably another half an hour, and then I'm gonna futz around with this a little bit more, and if I can't get this straight, I'm just gonna take my DA and I'm gonna put a new finish on the top of this, and you'll never know that, well, it'll just look different than it used to, that's all. Just to kind of break up, because this is brushed, and I'm just gonna put some like 180 on my DA and just scribble all over it. Well, there you go. I could never get this wallow out here. I just couldn't get rid of it, and no matter what I tried. And about 2/3 of the way through, I just said fuck it. I did take a good bit of the little nipples and dimples and shit out, and then I hit it with this. I hit it with 80 grit sandpaper on my DA first. I still need to wipe it off with some lacquer thinner, because there's a couple little spots from the other tool that I used. So I used 80 on my DA on grind first, and I didn't like it. So then I used 180 first, and I didn't like it. So then I switched to 80 when I still didn't like it. But I whacked it real hard with the 80. I whacked it real hard with 80, and then I went back over it again with one of these. This is a clean and strip wheel. That's where that's where this kind of shit came in. There's still spots where I didn't get rid of the marks from the slapper. Fuck it. I don't want to say it beat me, because it didn't, but it did. So that's it. You know, now I just got to get some hardware, because the hardware got all fucked up, and I'm just gonna bolt the lid back on, put the spring in it. I actually did get the insulator to go back in good enough. I got that to go back in. I had to hog the hole out a little bit, but I got the insulator to go back in. I'm not gonna weld it. We'll see what happens. It's in there pretty good enough. Now, if it fucks up again, I'll take it out, and I'll weld it real quick with the takeover. But I don't feel like doing it. I got to go scrub the toilet. So that's it. My half-ass repair on my $4,000 fucking gas grill. Oh well, it is what it is. You know, I'm not gonna run out and buy a new one. I'm just not in that position to do that right now. And they did knock $1,000 off the tree, but whatever. Not my most shining moment there.